On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks absolutely have to do this next season or it's a bust. Is that thing making the finals? I'll tell you in today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Amazing. Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
And welcome. You're Locked On to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we let him ride into the sunset. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, comment anything below. Do you believe that it's finals or bust for the Dallas Mavericks? Let me know in the comment section. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And joining me, yes, for the last time as he makes his way down to H-Town. What you got for me, Reggie Adetula?
It feels weird to do this at the beginning, but I appreciate all the Raccoon Squad, all the Mavs fans for embracing me. It's been fun doing this, and it's been more than I could expect, the level of support and embracing. So let's do this one more again, talk about your Dallas Mavericks.
Shout out to every Raccoon Squad member, everybody listening to the show that has recognized Reggie in public and before this show, which I think is hilarious.
Even at the Sam's Club. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Shout out to you guys. That's awesome. And shout out to Reggie for all the pictures that he took of this season at games of people, of listeners with me.
Yeah, can you get this picture of? Yeah, no problem.
One of my favorite things of people be like, "Can I get a picture?" Yeah, Reg, can you go?
No problem. I'm not doing anything. Might as well.
So good. Yeah, Reg just got a better opportunity down in Houston. Gonna go do bigger and better things. Even though now you have to live in Houston, right? This is not like a remote thing.
No, it is not. I mean, I've lived in Houston before. That's where I was born. So we'll make it work. I have some experience in that way.
I guess good things can come from Houston. Reggie is a testament to that.
Wow.
There's a level I've learned. I've lived here now for over a decade. I've learned the level of vitriol between the cities.
Yeah, man, it is a rivalry, almost a sibling rivalry between Houston and Dallas. And so I guess I'm flipping sides. Sorry about that.
Flipping back. Today, I want to talk about, is it finals or bust for the Dallas Mavericks this season? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, is it finals or bust? We'll talk about what happens if they bust, if we agree that it's finals or bust. What's the biggest reason why they would miss the finals? Not another team, but internally. And then what do we actually expect from the Dallas Mavericks? But I want to start here. I got this question on subtext, and I'm going to do a mailbag with Dana at the end of the week. And then I'm also going to respond to as many questions as I can and send the mailbag back to everybody like I do on subtext. I got this question. We made it to the finals last year. So is it finals again this year or bust? Reggie, do you agree that it is finals or bust for the Dallas Mavericks this season?
I actually do not. Although I guess we could put it this way. In a way, I think it's Western Conference Finals or bust.
Okay, the mini finals.
Right? And yeah, exactly. But I feel like it's just a wildly high expectation to put on any team to make the finals, right? To make the final of any sport in particular, right? Like it's one of the reasons why we talk about this in the way that we do, man. Like that's a hallowed ground. It's really tough to get there, and anything can break one way or the other and make it so you don't get there. Especially for me, if I'm at a place to say finals or bust about a team, it's because their window is closing, right? It's because literally this is not something that's going to be available to you. I can't say that about these Mavericks. Their window is opening really. And so I can't say that it's finals or bust, but you want to be around the area, right? You want to show that you're perpetually close enough and in that general area to be able to strike. You want to be within striking distance. And I feel like Western Conference Finals is within striking distance, although crossing through the Western Conference like the desert that is, right? Oof. That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but you have the aptitude where being in that area, being in that stratosphere is something that you absolutely should do. Getting to the finals, I do think requires a little bit more luck, a little bit of fortune, and a little bit of right time and all those types of things. And those are the things that I don't think that you can necessarily assume every single year. Western Conference Finals, I feel like that's a fair landing pad for a team that has one of the best players in the league, possibly the best player in the league, has another dude who is a very, very well-respected star in the league. Maybe you even call him a superstar. And then you add the level of support that they did in this offseason. I think that now you can say reasonably that they have all of the tools, that they have this team that's going to contend, right? And they have largely the bones of it, maybe even more than just the bones of what that what that contender is going to be. As that contending window opens, you got to be around there. But over the next 2-3 seasons, yeah, finals or bust is sometimes within there. But this season in and of itself, at least be around it.
Yeah, a couple things can be true. One, the Mavericks can make the NBA Finals and are going to be contenders, like you said. Another thing is, remember they were a 50-win team last season, and they were, fifth in the West? They didn't have home court advantage in any of the rounds in the playoffs. Yeah. If this was a team that was, number one in the West, made the finals, all right, they're supposed to do that. Okay, now they improved the team a little bit. Okay, now it can't be finals or bust for this season. I'm sorry. For any of you listening that are like, no, yes, it has to be finals or bust. They made it last year. They've got to do just as well, if not better, than what they did last year. Well, this was a team that was not supposed to make the NBA Finals, right? Like, let's not hold their success as now their bar, right? We're moving the goalpost because maybe you think the Mavs move the goalpost, but it's very hard to make the NBA Finals. Like, things happen, things get in the way, and I think that it is a Western Conference final. I'm with you that it's a Western Conference Finals. You've got to win a couple rounds. You've got to at least contend in that way. But if you're only expecting, you've got to just make the finals, or this season is a complete disaster. Well, I think that any people that would think that would say, all right, what if they make the Western Conference Finals? Is that's a complete disaster of a season, like a complete bust? Like, I'm not with you on that. I can't go all the way there if they did that. So since we're both in agreement that it is Western Conference Finals or bust, what if they do not make the Western Conference Finals? Then what happens? What's a bust? What's a bust look like?
That's a great question because, using the actual terminology of bust makes it a little difficult to where it might even be like second round or bust, but that just feels like
he moved the goalpost.
No. That's just too low of a bar, right? You need to be able to like handle adversity with the talent that you have through 2 rounds for sure. But like, the thing that frustrates me in particular with the situation that I've set myself up for in this very first 8 minutes of this program is bust is we go again, right? Like you've opened up your window here, you've put yourself in a place, and I guess far be it from me now to say that Nico Harrison can't wiggle his way out of a corner that they might have seemed to paint themselves into. But I think that you've gotten to a place where pretty much you've spent your currency. Like, this is largely going to be the team that you try and contend with, and it's a 2 or 3 year window of that level of contention. Well, if in year 1 you do not hit that mark, then you run it back, right? And so I think that basically is the way that it feels. Now, it's not going to feel good, I think, is ultimately the bust of this, right? It's going to feel like you did not achieve what you were capable of doing, right? The margin of error is why we put this at the Western Conference Finals. Things happen in any given year that can break in a way that you did not foresee them. But I don't know exactly what the negative side, what the bust is on this, because I'm not sure that you go and like break this thing down if they do not make the Western Conference Finals. You know what I mean?
The Mavs I think they have to make a Western Conference Finals, but let's say that it's a second round exit or even a first round exit, or God forbid they're a play-in team for whatever reason.
Oh, but
I think there is one thing that I think I figured out what a bust would be for this team.
Okay.
Someone has failed.
Oh, I picked it up. I'm with you now. Okay.
Someone has failed. If it's a bust, like if they don't make it, then someone has failed. And I think at a certain point you have to figure out who has failed. So coming up, let's talk about, if they do, then who has failed, and what would that mean for the Dallas Mavericks going forward? We'll talk about all that and more with Reg coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by, you guessed it, eBay Motors. The Dallas Mavericks have passion, they have drive, but do they have patience to win an NBA championship and make the finals next season? We'll find out when we talk about boom or bust for this season. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die car, truck, SUV, suburban van, whatever you got, alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance, things like superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, one of the best three-point shooters in NBA history joining your team, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million different parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and it'll be there when you need it, because with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. You don't have to worry about if the new addition is going to be able to play defense at a level well enough that your team is going to make the NBA Finals again. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash with all the parts you want, the prices, the parts you want, the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Go listen to Locked On NBA to make it your second listen. Great stuff all the time. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, no, if you listen to this on a Tuesday, it should be Matt Moore and David Ramil breaking it down. Tomorrow will be Jake Madison and John Corrales. Great duo there. And then Thursday is myself and Pat the Designer. So go listen to Locked On NBA. All kinds of great stuff. And I will tell you guys this. PJ Tucker going to be on the show on Friday.
Pops Jr.?
With Jackson Gatlin. Yeah, PJ Tucker. No one knows that. I don't even think the CEO of our company knows that.
Oh, well, now they do.
Now the Raccoon Squad knows it. You guys get to know it because I'm the NBA channel manager. All right, we're here with Reggie. It's his last show before he moves back down to H-Town. We're talking about the Dallas Mavericks and boom or bust. Finals or bust for the Dallas Mavericks. We asked the question, what happens if it is a bust? We don't think it's finals or bust. We think it's Western Conference finals or bust. I'm down with that. So if they don't make the Western Conference finals, to me, that means someone failed. And now you have to decide, okay, if we get to the point where they don't make it, you go, well, Nico Harrison failed. Is that a possibility next year? Or is the team, as constructed, it seems to be the best team, and several people have said this, the best team that's ever been around Luka? I would agree. Can Nico Harrison be the one that has failed if it's Western Conference finals or bust and they don't make it?
Maybe I just don't have a level of foresight that I would like to imagine, but I can't say that I would see that being the case here of that level of failure, right? Unless the degradation of Clay is just in a place that we completely did not understand, and it took away what seemed to be the largest identity of this team, which was ultimately clamping down on defense. But you brought in Najee Marshall, who should still be able to help with all of that. PJ ain't going nowhere. Derek Lively should get better in that regard. Like, I can't necessarily say the last time we talked on this program, we talked about how there are contingencies in this. It feels like just ultimately the way that this team is built has the fridge is stocked up, right? The grocery shopping was done well. And that ultimately is the responsibility of the general manager.
I don't think it would be on Nico Harrison. It's a low possibility that it's going to be on him, that it would be the boomer bust for him. Would it be on Jason Kidd? Would Jason Kidd be the one where we go, man, this team didn't make it, it's on Jason Kidd? At this point, to me, he's made a Western Conference Finals, and then he made the NBA Finals. Like, he's proven that he can win. So maybe there's something that happens, it's some in-game adjustment he doesn't make, or something that he gets stuck on, and he starts Dwight over Lively. Like, something crazy happens, and we go, oh my God, that's Jason Kidd's fault. But to me, I think it's kind of a low percentage that we would blame it on Jason Kidd. The one that I come back to is Luka Doncic. It's Western Conference finals or bust, or finals or bust in your mind, because he's that good. Right? And I think that's why we get to that level. And so maybe somebody fails him in Jason Kidd or somebody, but I think it'll come back to Luka.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the place where this is how greats are judged, right? And now that you are firmly, right, after years of consternation and not quite actually being in MVP caliber conversations, he absolutely squarely is MVP caliber conversation.
Third.
When you are in those conversations, all right, you didn't have to undercut me like that. But when you're in those conversations,
I'm undercutting the voters.
Team success then becomes vital to this, right? We judge this based off of this. Hell, that was one of the reasons why people got so damn mad about Jokic not winning it at one point, was just, but look at where the team is, right? We've heard these conversations. None of us are new to it. When you're a superstar, because in basketball, one player can affect so much of this, the expectation is you determine the altitude of your team. And so, yeah, if they do not reach the altitude that's expected of them, there's going to be some questions for him, for sure, especially with the ways that, and we already saw that, right? In the finals, when the defense did not look all that great immediately, right? We started having cut-ups. We started having conversations on the morning shows about, is he not making those? Like, those things have already been probed a little bit. That noise gets a lot louder if those are the types of things that then, keep you from what is the expectation next year.
I don't think that Luka will get like blame if they don't make it, but it is on him, and the expectation is there. The finals or bust mentality is there because he is that good and because he can take you there, like you said. And so we start to go through the next thing I want to talk about, the biggest reasons why the Mavericks would miss the finals and wouldn't make it there. It would be a bust season, according to some. And now let's talk about internally. Let's not just say, well, the Thunder got better and so they'll beat them. Like we're not doing that. The first one to me is Luka injuries again, right? Which takes us back to Luka, is that if he's not better, if the injuries keep nagging at him, or he comes back this season and it still doesn't look like the same explosive guy, those injuries just keep nagging on, then he can be very, very, very good, excellent even, but he still won't be that like 100% Luka that we look at and go, oh my God, this guy is another level, and that's why this team should make the NBA Finals.
Yeah, he is the linchpin when we talk about injuries, but that expands further, I guess, in a way that's a little unfortunate, is that your top 3 players all have the possibility of nagging injuries or those types of things affecting you. And so I feel like it would have to be maybe a convergence of a few of them possibly that would really take you out of that spot. But no, Luka in particular, if you have those, it really takes you out of that Western Conference Finals or bust situation. But I think you can have combinations of Clay and Kyrie, also injuries that can maybe make this tough. But I think that obviously that's to be expected, right? We start talking about injuries with any team, you get to that place where you go, yeah, expectations definitely shift.
The other one, I think, the other big reason why Mavs would miss the finals, I think, is a Kyrie regression. This is one that, like, I don't know that we really want to talk about. It's kind of like you don't like to talk about somebody, but he had a great season. Got to the end, and all of a sudden you go, wow, man, the Celtics thing is weird. They guarded him really heavy in the Thunder series, and that was a tough one. But like, you go back to what I talked about 2 weeks ago with Kyrie. He's going to be 33 this season. And you start to look at guys and guards that are 6'3" and shorter, and he's 6'2". You start looking at guys that have averaged over 20 points a game. It's Jerry West, did it when he was 33. He did it when he was 34 and did it when he was 35, the logo himself. Lillard last year, 24 points. He's 33.
And that 24 didn't look great either. Like, there was times where it was really problematic. Anyway.
And they didn't make it far, with what they did. You look at Steph Curry at 33, 34, and 35 last season. Probably going to do it again at 36, looking at how good he was in the Olympics. Lenny Wilkins averaged 20 at 35. Then Hal Greer averaged 22 at 33. Those are all the names that I can mention. It is rare for a player to age like this and to continue to look very good. And you mentioned that Damian Lillard did not necessarily look that great next season. So could a Kyrie regression, to me, would hold them back. And that's something that we've got to just watch out for and see how they manage him. He played 58 games last year, played all through the playoffs, and that was really great. But he's had injuries in his career, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it for me is, like, I'm not super worried about regression in a big way, because the skill of his game is as crisp as it feels like it's ever been, and the athleticism is typically the place where I wonder if you get a regression. And he still looks really, really athletic in that way still. And maybe look, sometimes it happens where athleticism in any sport just falls off a cliff. I'm not necessarily sure that that's exactly what's going to happen with Kyrie. So I'm not as worried about it. But I think what's interesting is, as we talk about these things and we lay out the reasons that could be it, the likelihood is that it's not an individual one of any of these, but it's some level of tag team of a little bit of this and a little bit of that gets you to that place. So what level of regression do you see from Kyrie, and then maybe even Clay, those types of things that then put you in a place where you go, oh, okay, this is not exactly where you were. Yeah,
listen, Kyrie had 6 dunks last year, the most in his career, which doesn't sound like a lot, 6, but he still had more than he ever had in his career. So to me, I'm not expecting a regression from him, right? Like, if we're talking about what we're expecting, but if we're talking about a reason, if Kyrie does regress, then that is a reason that they would miss. Absolutely. You'd go, oh man, Kyrie is not as good. And all of a sudden now you have a 35-year-old Clay at the end of the season, a 33-year-old Kyrie that are both aging. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're trying to make this defense out of these 2 aging guys and Luka. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what could happen? I got 2 more reasons why the Mavs would.
Before you move along, I do want to ask you this. How long would that regression have to display itself for it to overweigh what is like the respect and gravitas that his personality brings, right? Because one of the things we know about this league is sometimes, right, we can even take this to a very basic time. Sometimes you can look at a shooting percentage and be like, hey, that's not as good as a great shooter. And people go, yeah, but whatever. We know who that dude is, right? And Kyrie absolutely has that kind of resume, that kind of reputation. Like, how long would the regression have to be during the course of it? Would it be a month? Would it be half the year? Would it have to be a majority of the year for teams to then change the way that they play him?
Man, I think he will just always get that respect, right? Like, teams will always respect Steph and send that extra. Like, I think he has that gravity will just always follow Steph because of his reputation. For Kyrie, I think he'll have that too. And so I think he'll still garner attention. And so I think the Mavs could still figure out a way. Like, let's say Klay comes in and Klay is as good as we hope he's going to be, but Kyrie regresses a little bit. Then maybe that evens out. And then all of a sudden, like, the attention that Kyrie gets is not going to be a lot less. It would take a long time for them, and probably until the playoffs. It would probably take until the playoffs where teams really start honing in, really start looking at film, really start seeing what this player was this season to then create the game plan. Because during the regular season, right, like, sometimes you get guarded on your reputation.
Yeah.
Right? You got the classic D'Angelo Russell clip where Jose Alvarado's dribbling up the court and he goes, hey, can he shoot? Can he shoot? Yeah, I can shoot. And he takes the shot. He makes it, right? Like, these guys are not necessarily like scouring over scouting reports during the regular season. I know that's D'Angelo Russell, and he's maybe not like the highest of prepared players that you would think of in the NBA, but it's an example of, like, he didn't know if he could shoot or not. So will people know if Kyrie is like 5%, 15% not as good as he was last year? I don't think so. Probably not. They'll just look at it and see, oh, hey, that's Kyrie, who I used to watch when I was growing up, who hit one of the greatest shots in NBA history.
There you go.
Coming up, I got two other reasons why the Mavs could miss the finals, and then we'll talk about what we actually expect from the Mavericks next year. Coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here. Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right. I'm here with Reggie Adetula, talking about the Dallas Mavericks riding into the sunset. Reg, I will never forget Game 3, Mavs Timberwolves. This is one of the greatest moments of this podcast when the three of us, you, me, and Slightly, were standing there next to TNT and recording the show in person in front of my little camera from my phone when TNT has all the equipment in the world. It was very funny. But
I swore we were going to get thrown out. I just knew it. You could go back and watch the video. You can see it all over my face. I'm in my head. We're about to get thrown out like Uncle Phil in the Fresh Prince.
We had recorded so many episodes there, though. Like it had been a tried and true spot that we could record. It just so happened the TNT spot happened to be right next to it. Like the odds were either we were going to get thrown out or one of them was going to come join us for like an impromptu like.
And I don't know what was more terrifying to me, right? Like just Charles Barkley walking over. What you knuckleheads talking about? You know,
hey, this setup is terrible.
Terrible. Hey, Slightly, let me tell you something, Slightly.
Imagining Charles Barkley talking to Slightly by and like not knowing his first name. Like, what's your name? Slightly? Slightly what?
That ain't a name.
Slightly high with those glasses. Oh my God! Imagine.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, we got off the rails because imagine Charles Barkley talking to Slightly, like looking him in the glasses, like looking him in the eyes up and down. Oh man, that took me out. That would have been insane. We've been talking about if this is a boom or bust, a finals or bust season for the Dallas Mavericks coming up. We think it's a Western Conference finals or bust season for the Mavs. We talked about a couple of the reasons. Luka's nagging injuries. Kyrie's regression potentially could be reasons why the Mavericks have missed the finals. Another one, Klay Thompson. If Klay Thompson comes in, and I've said this a bunch, and I'm kind of interested to hear your opinion on this because coaching is something that you have a good perspective on. Jason Kidd.
You gotta ask them. I'm just the coach.
Has his work cut out for him this season with the egos to balance. He's done a great job with Luka and Kyrie. Now you've introduced this Klay Thompson third one where I think Klay Thompson comes in and knows that he's the third guy. Mm-hmm. But what if he's like, what if you can't play those three guys together as much because the defense is not as good as we would hope it would be, or not as good as they need it to be for them to get to that next level? And so Clay defensively not being as good. Clay maybe I can't imagine a scenario where Clay offensively is not as good as they need him or want him to be, just because he'll be able to hit shots. But
I think that the offensive concern that's there for Clay is not the high water mark, it's the consistency that'd be an issue, right? Like I think that would be the thing that would be the problem. Like the high water mark we know is crazy, right? Shout out to Dwayne Price when the man scores, what is it, 50, 60 on a few dribbles. Like Dwayne Price is the one that's like, I love that so much. But like we know that that's in the bag, right? But we also saw them lose, finish out their season in Sacramento with him not knocking down any shots, right? I think that the idea that could be a roller coaster when he needs to be a guy that's a little bit more consistent for you, I think that could be the thing that makes it tough offensively. But you're right, the shooting is going to be there, and it's typically the last thing to go on a great player like that.
The team's chemistry last season was also a strength, the same that it was in 2022. The team had a very good chemistry. Everybody down the line knew what their role was and fit into it. Even guys like, Dante Exum were fighting for what their role could be, but still accepted it. You had Tim Hardaway Jr. that accepted his role, didn't play a lot in the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if they win the OKC series if he doesn't come out in game 2 and have 17 points. Like that, That's big. And to me, that's a culture chemistry play right there. And so if Clay comes in and maybe changes that chemistry up, you add more asset or you add more base to your compound, and all of a sudden it doesn't work the same way that your textbook says that it should. Oh my God. I landed the plane so hard on that one.
I thought it was good. I thought we were going to make it work regardless. But no, look, I hear your concern and it's a fair one. I'm not particularly worried about it because of this. Klay Thompson, I know that you're coming off of a time with him where he became the squeaky wheel in a way. However, that was because he never was the squeaky wheel, right? Like that was years upon years of being the guy who was like willing to just, do whatever to make everybody comfortable in the circumstance. And that became tiring for him. I think that you have a level of grace here because this is a new opportunity and the honeymoon period will carry you a certain level of way. And he chose to be here. And I think in the same ways that we've talked about historically, it's kind of funny when you think of kind of the panics that we've had as with Mavs fan base here, where the Luka Doncic is going to leave panic, right?
Yeah, gone.
You're going to be a cancer or is not going to fit in panic. And both of those you saw were kind of alleviated in large part because of a level of respect and belief in the head coach and Jason Kidd. And I think that similarly is also going to be the soothing effect, the balm on this particular panic as well, is that this is another guy that respects that dude a whole bunch and respects what you've already built. And he's used to being a support player at an extremely high level, at an elite level. So I think that he knows what the game is coming in and being a support player. I don't think that you're going to have to deal with that, at least not in year one, especially also knowing that I feel like Jason Kidd is smart enough and I feel like Nico Harrison are smart enough to know that you also have to appeal a little bit to that guy, knowing what he just came through. And that's why when we've talked about it, right, what's the starting lineup going to be? At the start of the year, Klay Thompson going to be in that bad boy. Please understand, because it's a level of respect for him. But I think that mutual respect will then get them to a place where if he looks at it and he knows basketball well enough to look around and be like, hey, this isn't quite working, I think that he'll be willing to go along with all of these things because everybody else is going along with it too, and because of the respect for the process.
Yeah, I think if Jason Kidd navigates this and he brings in Klay Thompson and it's seamless the same way it was with Kyrie, I think we start looking at Jason Kidd as one of the best ego managers in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
For sure.
You bring in and add Dinwiddie into that too, because he's going to come in and expect a role. He chose the Mavs instead of the Lakers, and I'm sure he was told something. And so if he manages this again, the team has good chemistry again, we have to start looking at Jason Kidd with that lens and start giving him the credit for things like this, because I don't know that we can just say it's the leadership of the players. It's not just Markieff Morris that got them to come together, and like he wasn't there in 2022. Neither was Kyrie in his leadership in 2022. Maybe it's on Luka. Maybe it's his easygoing type personality with guys in the locker room. But to me, I think the credit should go to Jason Kidd. And hey, it's me saying that. Last thing I want to get into is what do we actually expect from the Mavericks this season? Your last thing. What do you expect from the Mavs this season?
They are the cream of the crop in the West, right? Like I expect them to be an absolute contender. I expect them to be very good very quickly, and I expect them to be in the Western Conference Finals, right? Like that's the reason why I set the bar there. It has to be that. And I'm not great at being absolute in these ways, because if I was, I'd be like, yo, finals, right? And just do it out. But I understand and I recognize that I think that there are two other teams in this West that are going to make this very, very difficult. But I do think the Mavericks, like, I think when we saw free agency play out and everything, I looked up and I said, I think this is the best team in the West. And I maintain that perspective at this point. And so I expect them, all the things that come with being probably, if not definitely, the best team in the West, all those expectations, right? A very good record, or a relatively good record, understanding that sometimes teams aren't necessarily gunning for that number necessarily. But I also expect them, with the level of adversity that they face going through the finals and getting that level of seasoning, and with them being the team that looked like they had the most experience of those really, really good teams in the West, I expect them to be in that place where they are the favorite in the Western Conference Final. And maybe you can lose, that happens from time to time, but I expect them to be in that place.
Yeah, now the team that had more seasoning has more, because they actually went to the finals. Now they have that together with this group. If you are somehow a Houston fan, go listen to Reggie. Go follow Reggie and his journey down to Houston. If you're not, then just go send him some love on social media. Go send him some love on Twitter at Reggie Adetula. You can go and just talk about your favorite moment. Maybe it's when Reggie did the Collinsworth slide into the frame. that one episode at the arena. So many different things. But Reggie,
this is what you get Reggie on your podcast for.
He had a catchphrase. He had a catchphrase on the show that kept coming back. Oh, man. Yeah, we'll miss you on the show. You're always welcome back. As soon as the Mavs play the Rockets, screw Jackson Gatlin. We're going to have you on. So
Wow. I don't think that we should do that. But okay. I appreciate the love. There's a lot of love that's going right back to you in particular, Nick, but to all of the fine contributors and, of course, the tons of the Raccoon Squad. I appreciate you guys so much.
Always great stuff. Reg, thanks so much for hanging out with us this year. And guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Tomorrow, Slightly and I are talking about the Mavs and our big questions about them. And then, more. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.